Buenos dias everyone and welcome back to the podcast. So today I have a very special guest. So Ciaran Griffith is the first person who ever taught me how to lift weights, and it's immeasurable the effect he had on me, my love of training, my love of physical training, how hard I trained, all the exercises I've done, the way I've trained over the past 15 years since that first day I put a barbell on my back. And to tell a short story, I put a barbell on my back for the first time when I was 16 years old under the watchful eye of Ciaran. He complimented my technique, said this is absolutely excellent for your first time squatting. That's perfect technique. You should really push that as hard as you can. You should really keep squatting. And it had a massive effect on me. That bit of encouragement, I've consciously tried to give that to numerous young men since. So every time I've seen a young fella in the gym, I've treated them very similarly to the way Ciaran treated me. So I've encouraged them, you're good at this, let's go for it, push yourself as hard as you can, even if they're extremely weak, like I was at day one. I was very weak, I was just pretty good at squatting. That bit of encouragement, it's life-changing, okay? And Ciaran is an absolute salt-of-the-earth guy, so let's go through what we actually talk about in the podcast. We talk about my first ever strength training, weight training program that he gave me. So a couple of years after that first time he taught me how to squat, I actually paid him for a specific program for me when I was about 18 years old. And we talk about all the exercises that are on that and how it was so helpful, so beneficial to me, how much strength I built, how much muscle I built in those early days lifting weights. We talk about why he loves training so hard. While he encourages you, and he encouraged me, he absolutely drove me to my physical limit. I remember distinctly how hard the training sessions were. We go through all of that. I've tried to do the exact same with many young men since. When they get under my eye in the gym, I push them to their absolute limit. So it's not the same thing you do with every client, but definitely young men, me when I was that age, the best thing that ever happened was how hard he pushed me in the gym. And I realized I could take punishment, I could work this hard, and I could do it on my own because I had done it under his eye. We talk about what is biomechanics, something I'm no expert on, but he has a college degree in sports science, so he knows a lot about biomechanics. And we talk about why he's so interested in being explosive. So I have interest in ultramarathons, bodybuilding, gymnastics, powerlifting. I like a general approach to strength training. Ciaran's interest in strength training has always been very specific. So specific that people call him Mr. Explosive. He's always been interested in that explosive power that you might associate with sprinters, you might associate with long jumpers, breaking through tackles in GA and rugby. Just being an incredibly explosive athlete. That's been his fascination, or his disease as he calls it in the podcast. We talk about why he's so interested in that. We also go through his time working with All Blacks. So while he was in college in UL, he went on an internship to New Zealand, got to work with the Chiefs, some professional All Blacks at the time. We go through how strong they were and what he learned from being around athletes that incredibly developed, or that high a level. We talk about how to lift weights to get faster, and we talk about building a foundation with youth athletes. There's so much good information here for youth athletes, for anyone involved in coaching youth athletes. We go through his time working with Enda Varley and Cullen Boyle when, if my memory serves me correctly, both players were left off the Mayo panel after being on it, and they had to develop themselves physically to get back onto the Mayo panel, which is exactly what they did under his guidance. So he's not the type to take credit for it all himself, but he had a big part to play in both of their physical development in their late teens, early 20s, when they were trying to break on to one of the most successful Mayo senior panels of all time. Both players, when they got back on to the Mayo panel, I think, were poster boys for explosive strength, for physical strength. They weren't the biggest height-wise, but they were extremely strong. So their relative strength was extremely impressive. And Ciaran had a big part to play in that. So I know I've trained a lot of players who are in the same age bracket who want to develop themselves physically. This is an inside look at how those two players did it from their coach. We talk about the fitness work and the strength to running ratio for GA players. We talk about the best running sessions, the best type of running, sprinting to get fit for GEA, for running sessions. We talk about recovery from hard training, and then we move on to the last few years, 6 years now, 6.5 years ago, he opened Peak Physique in Ballyhaunis. He now is a gym owner. He has his own personal training gym where he works with members of the general population, and it's going from strength to strength each year, and he's really happy with the decision. He left teaching. We talk about how he made that decision to go and open his own gym, and he's been delighted with it. He absolutely loves the job since. As his good friend Ian McWalter told him before he left the job, the best job in the world. I agree completely. Ciaran agrees. So we talk about how he made that decision and what's involved in the day-to-day running of Peak Physique in terms of training clients. We go through how to improve people's life quality through fitness, which is the job of a personal trainer working with general population. And we talk about Ciaran's own training currently and his favourite exercises. Ciaran is a training fanatic, and you'll feel that all throughout today's conversation. He absolutely loves training to his bones, which is why I love talking to him about training. He's taught me so much. All of the exercises that I'm still doing on my programs with my clients, good mornings, RDLs, dips, chin-ups, dumbbell pressing, barbell pressing. I learned all of these first time anyone went over my technique, first time I even heard the name of these exercises was from Ciaran. So without any further delay, please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation. I'm here with Ciaran Griffith, my first ever strength training coach and owner of Peak Physique in Ballyhaunis. But I suppose a great place to start would be something I've brought up to many of my own clients and many of the trainers, the GA teams I've worked with, which is my own first gym program. I think I'm 31 now. I got one as maybe 16, 17, the old boxing club.
That's right.
In the old GA complex in Clonmars.
Yes.
How little has changed, I always tell them. Even though I got that program 15 years ago now, how little has changed in terms of the exercises that are on it. And
yes.
So what it had, so I got you with the under 16s, Clonmars under 16s first. I think Brian Finn brought you in.
Jeez, you're bringing me back, that's right.
And we had that gym. It was a spit and sawdust gym, as they like to call them in the States.
Old school.
Yeah, loads of weights thrown around the place, faulty machines.
That's right.
And plenty of free weights and plates and dumbbells. And I got a program that had calf flicks to start off.
Jeez, I was actually thinking what program I gave you because it's so long ago, but it's interesting just to hear it
I
back.
remember it, yeah. It had calf flicks starting off, and then it moved on to squats. And then I'm pretty sure we had like single leg squats. Was it maybe sprinter squats with the barbell?
Okay.
So like your back leg up. I think they were called sprinter squats, but I know them as Bulgarians now.
Yeah, Bulgarians.
And then we had calf raises at the end, and that was the first phase. And we were split into 2 days upper and 2 days lower.
Yeah.
And the upper then had decline bench, pull-ups. I couldn't do any pull-ups. So I distinctly remember it was a baptismal fire. So I couldn't do any pull-ups. So you were roaring at me one-on-one in the gym, trying to assist me to do pull-ups, and my hands were getting cut, soft hands, on the edge of, it was like this thing that came across to hold the boxing bags.
Yes.
We did the chin-ups on that. And I couldn't do any pull-ups, but I was being lifted up and down by yourself while you were shouting at me. I didn't have a choice whether to come off the bar or not. And then the same with the decline bench. So I was doing maybe 40 kg on the decline bench. I was 18 at that stage and trained till failure. And then once I got to failure, I had to get a few more reps, a few more
proper
reps.
Exhaustion.
Do you still train people that hard? I think I learned how to train that hard from you, from Alan Feely as well back in the day.
He trained, God bless Alan.
He taught me how to train that hard as well, and that when you go to failure, you still have a few reps left. It's all a mindset. So do you still push people that hard, or why were you so interested in pushing yourself that hard?
Oh jeez. I suppose in terms of clients, I don't push them that hard, Kev. because I think I'd run them out the door.
Exactly.
My general personal training client, if I'm being completely honest, I start them off easy.
They never come back.
Never come back, Kev. Yeah, they never come back. So you just can't do that. But I still train with that. I still bust an eye socket every session. I still do, you know. I still have that head, that mindset. So I train that hard. And, you know, I think if you're dealing with athletes, you know, GA players even, it's very different to the personal training client.
Yes.
So that difference is, you know, for sure.
Okay.
So yeah.
But why did you want to train that hard back then? Where did you learn it, or what appealed to you about pushing yourself that hard?
Do you know what? I've just, it's always, I think it's something in the head. It's always there. I remember starting athletics when I was about 12 with Jason Byrne, and getting satisfaction out of seeing the body improve. Because I was never genetically gifted, but just, you could see improvements, and it just, the bug, and maybe it's just something natural in the head that I just love to push myself, probably a bit like yourself. But yeah, no, I still I can't really describe it, but I'm not probably explaining it too well, but
so
yeah.
So when did you start lifting weights? So you would have, your earlier forms of exercise were sport, yes?
Yeah.
So that would have been GA athletics, you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much GA and athletics.
And when did you start lifting weights, or how did
Started lifting weights, yeah, so you do your push-ups and sit-ups at GA training and all of that. But Evan, my brother, had a couple of dumbbells in the sitting room. And I just remember, I think I was about 17, and I just started playing around with these dumbbells. And within about 3 weeks, I seen immediate, I felt different. Within 21 days, I started to feel different.
Yeah. And
then it just goes, hold on, there's something to this. And I just started getting a bug for it.
And what year is this? This is quite early on the grand scheme of things for weight training.
I mean, but the training I was doing was so basic, I hadn't a clue. I remember 17 playing with Coleman's. And I started weight training in maybe November or something. And by December, because no one else was weight training.
No.
And some of the players were noticing a difference already, you know, within a couple of weeks, and a bit of increase in strength and size. So that just kind of gathered a bit of momentum and just fell in love with it.
And it does, even when you're 16, 17, the biggest guy and strongest guy in the changing rooms, he grabs attention, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's nearly an innate thing. We're just drawn to. I remember being that age and thinking, who's the biggest, strongest, fastest guy in the room? You know, you're always,
yeah.
Especially in Coleman's, whatever it is about that.
Yeah, testosterone fueled, all boys school, like.
Yeah. All
boys school, there's something to it, you know. Even I taught for a year in a rugby school in Cistercian and Tipperary, and that same kind of vibe, the same energy, just fellas bouncing off each other.
I remember when we were in Coleman's, they'd be having competitions who could hold rocks out the longest and things like that, just to see who was the toughest, strongest, and even physically and mentally, who was the strongest, who was the top of the bleep test, who could bench press the most. Especially when you're 16, 15, 16, 17, it's like people want to know that. Yeah,
and compete against each other.
Yeah.
Just typical male behaviour, isn't it?
And that's probably where the first bit of competition came from, in terms of wanting to push yourself very hard, just to get on the sports team.
Yeah, exactly. Just always competitive, you know.
How did you start from, say, there where you're doing a very basic setup?
Okay.
How did you get the knowledge to write what you wrote for me a few years later, maybe 5, 6 years later, which was a very, very detailed program, down to the supersets, sets, reps, exercises on it. We moved from there to good mornings, power cleans, stiff leg deadlifts. We did dips. We did all the foundational exercises, and they were programmed over 12 weeks where the reps were lower, and there was that type of periodization to it. How did you go from, like, your 16, 17-year-old wanting to lift some weights, do some push-ups and get stronger, to a detailed knowledge? Where did you gather it?
Yeah, well, I suppose I always had the love for pushing the body from the GA and athletics, and then that kind of transitioned into weight training as soon as I started seeing some results when I picked up the dumbbells, and I started just getting a grow for it and a real love for it. and then just a thirst for knowledge. So Evan was a good resource because he was doing sports science at the time, I think, in Wales. So I'd always be learning from Evan. And then I think he had a book, Arnold, and I was never into bodybuilding, still haven't really. It was always the strength and speed and the number side of things that drove me or interested me. But he had a book, Arnold, Bodybuilding Encyclopedia.
Yeah, Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, yeah.
So that was one book I started looking at first. And then he had another book, just these are going back a long time, but it was called Bigger, Faster, Stronger for American high school athletes or students. And I read that, and that gave me a basic foundation to start off.
Yes.
So I implemented that at kind of 17, 18, but at least it gave me a structure. And then just a thirst for more, just a real love for the human body. You know, done my leaving cert, did sports science in UL, and then...
Why did you pick sports science? Because it is quite a popular course now. Was it a popular course then? Or was it pretty new back then?
It was probably pretty new, Kev, because even, like, things have changed so much in the last 10 years, it's ridiculous. You know, like even GA players then didn't have the accessibility to find out, you know, it wasn't the same, so things have evolved so much. So yeah, just I just always wanting to, just an interest, Kev, just an interest in the human body and sports science that there was actually nothing else I wanted to do. There was no other course, that or PE teaching, that jumped out at me.
Yes.
So it was like a no-brainer.
Yeah. And when you went to Limerick, it was pretty high point sports science, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you would have had to work pretty hard to get into the course.
Yeah, no,
and
I
did you feel like you won the lotto because it was the only thing you wanted to do?
I don't know, did I feel like I won the lotto, but yeah, no, I was very happy to do it. It was a shock because it was when I got in, because there was a lot of physics and maths in it that I didn't expect. But
why would there be physics and maths in sports science?
For whatever reason, I suppose it connected to the biomechanics.
Okay.
You know, linked in with that. But I thought it was going to be all, and actually it lacked a lot of practical application when I look back on it.
Yes.
But there was a lot of
which is not unusual for a college course in any fields to lack a bit of practical application.
No.
Just a word you mentioned there, biomechanics.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a brief knowledge of biomechanics. What's biomechanics for you? What's your definition of it?
I suppose, you're just, when I think back at my biomechanics, angles, torque, force plates, all of that sort of stuff.
Okay.
You know.
And how it relates to how fast you can move weight, is it? Or how fast you can move your body, or both? Exactly.
Just how it increases human performance, I guess.
Okay, so what would you be trying to learn about? How would that help you increase human performance, biomechanics? How would a knowledge of that help? Well,
you know, I suppose if you're producing more force on a force plate, you know, you're getting more powerful. You know, you're getting stronger. You're able to jump higher. Hopefully, that's going to lead to you to be quicker, etc.
Yes.
You know, just looking at an angle in a squat. I'm not an expert in biomechanics at all.
No.
It was more the physiology stuff that interested me, muscle fiber types and all of that.
Yes. Well, I know they call you explosive, and you've always, and it is interesting, like, as soon as you said that, I'm well aware of that. You were never really into the bodybuilding style of it.
No.
You were never really into maybe the long distance running side of it. It would there's many different genres within fitness. There is bodybuilding, there is powerlifting, there's Olympic lifting. There's I personally love flexibility and gymnastics. Do you know? I think what they can do is incredible.
Insane.
That's a mixture of like flexibility and power. They're a lot smaller. But you were always interested in becoming explosive, becoming as fast as possible.
Yeah.
You know, improving how fast you could move and how you could maybe break through tackles in rugby or GA. That was the side of performance that interested you the most.
Yeah, no, it fascinated me. It fascinated, and still does, Kev. Still does. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not obsessed about it, and it's a disease. Like, but no, it just absolutely. I just love numbers. I love looking at the 100-meter sprint in the Olympics.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Olympic weightlifting, looking at the numbers, powerlifting, all of that sort of stuff.
And what have you learned about becoming more explosive that is applicable to nearly anyone that is playing sport?
Oh God, geez, we could talk about it for an hour.
Yes.
Training methods, there's so much, but I mean, more explosive, gun to my head, the first thing, you have to jump.
Yes.
Jumping is the manifestation of explosive strength. So
okay.
if you're not jumping plyometrics, you're missing out on the key component of becoming more explosive.
Okay. And when you say jumping, doing your game situations where they're jumping for a ball, does that count as jumping in the plyometric
That's true.
sense? Would you prefer the specific, more trained jumps?
There's more specific train jumps, and actually it's a good point, because you have to take that into consideration mid-season. You don't want to be doing too much plyometrics if you're doing a heck of a lot of jumping and causing overuse injuries. But
yes.
Certainly if you can control your training volume, it'd be separate. And 40 jumps twice a week is a nice little
40 jumps twice a week.
40 jumps twice a week.
And I remember when I was with you all the way back then, I was doing tuck jumps, broad jumps, so like or depth jumps maybe, is it the way you're jumping from here as far as you can from a standing position?
Yeah, standing long jumps,
and then box jumps.
Box
we were
jumps.
doing there are 3 types of jumps.
Yes.
When would you utilise those 3 for building explosive strength? Or
personally, and I'm not the godfather here, different coaches have different philosophies on it. But
well, it's the internet, so anyone, if you have any opinion, someone's going to tell you you're wrong.
Of course, But
what's your experience then?
I think they should be done all year round, personally. And that's based off the recommendations of geniuses, not my, that's what I'm going off like.
Yes.
I think they can be done all year round, because your body will detrain if you don't do them. Okay. In my opinion.
And so 40 jumps twice a week, how would you incorporate that into your strength training or your GA pitch sessions?
Yeah, you can do it in your gym work. Do it at the start of a session when the central nervous system is that bit fresher. You could do it right before your main compound lift or right after, ideally. So yeah, you could do it if you're doing 2 leg sessions a week. You can do them then, Kev.
Yeah. Well, I had a coach a good few years, maybe 3 years after I opened the gym. His name was Andrzej Wadin-Roskowski. Did you ever hear of him?
I remember you telling me about him, but I hadn't. Yeah.
He's a PICP level 5.
Yes.
So he trained a world champion powerlifting, but he was far more powerlifting than bodybuilding.
Right.
And he came up with a lot of these novel exercises and things. But he actually used to start all my squat sessions with box jumps.
Right. Okay.
So he said that the faster you can lift your knees nearly to your chest, which is a box jump, the top of your knee is nearly at your chin if the box is high enough.
Yeah.
And if you do 10, I think I was doing them on the minute, one of them on the minute, every minute for 15 minutes.
Okay.
So it was like this max jump.
So 15 jumps.
15 jumps as a warm-up.
Yeah.
And every week, I think it was, I was adding a plate.
Right.
So the box maybe started as high as the armchair here.
Yeah.
And every week I was adding a plate until I was nearly could get up to as high jump. There's a counter in my gym now, I can jump that now without even warming up all the time.
What
that explosive jump, it's never left me once I developed that. Do you know?
Yes. Okay.
And it suited perfectly the warm up for a squat as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, did you just to take it back a little bit to Evan?
Mm-hmm.
So Evan, you're on about Arnold's encyclopedia. Evan was a bit of an encyclopedia of knowledge himself.
He was good, and maybe I can thank him as well for seeing Evan, and he was into it. So maybe I wanted to replicate my older brother a wee bit. So
I only met him a couple of times, and he was extremely built. You know, he was like, if you look at me in clothes, you'd think I barely lift weights because I'm only 75 kg maybe. You know, it's a bit different when we're training. Yeah. But you could tell looking at Evan, he is extremely powerfully built.
Yeah.
Just the size of him. And I think what he got 160 kg of a front squat.
Jeez,
I think I remember
you have an encyclopedia of a memory.
I do for this type of thing. I'm a bit upset.
That's right.
And I won't remember where I left my keys in the morning. But
Yeah.
So I remember asking him a question before, like it was with you. You were there at the time, and it was like, Joe, if you're trying to lose body fat, you run with the bags over you.
Yeah, okay.
So a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
With the bags to sweat more. He was like, well, that's a brilliant way to get a headache.
Yeah.
He said that's about all that's good for.
Yeah.
And then I remember asking him about 10 by 10 squats I'd heard, and he himself and you had recommended
German volume.
It's German volume. It's from Charles Polkin. He had this encyclopedic knowledge of a lot of that strength training that wasn't common at the time. How important was that for you when you were starting, that you had that reference point?
It's great, actually. It's great. Like, and we still shoot the breeze on it. But it was great, and again, I can thank Evan for kind of being someone to kind of look at, and he had a few books that really started me off, like.
Yeah.
Look, it was great. Like, it was great to have him,
and he was working with the Connacht.
Yeah, Evan. He did sports science, then PE, and he, like, I think for over 10 years he's been with the Connacht Academy. He's not doing it the last maybe 3 or 4 years, I think, but for every summer for years he'd be going up to Galway, just taking one of the underage teams for their pre-season in summer. Or how would you? I guess it would be a pre-season.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what would his main job be in terms of, like, was he writing programs? Was he taking them through, coaching them exercises?
I think he was assistant, Kev. I think he was assistant for maybe the first couple of years, and then they gave him his own teams then towards the end of it. So he'd be assistant in the gym, the speed sessions, conditioning, and then I think he got his own teams towards the end of it. And
would his, say, style of programs, the exercises he was picking, would they have been similar to yours?
I bet they would have been.
Program, and what would they have been for a youth athlete?
I mean, I actually have never looked exactly at what his programs, but I bet you it would be a core compound movement.
Like, so that would be a squat,
box squat, front squat, conventional deadlift, sumo deadlift, something like that to start, and then you've got your accessories after. I'm sure I must ask him, but I'm sure it was something similar to that, like.
Yes. And so when he was doing that, that's where you were picking up a lot of your ideas from.
I was picking up from Evan, but also, Kev, my own sort of reading, my own reading, sports science, the own internships I did, and just constantly just to grow for it, like,
What internships did you do when you were involved in the course? You went to work in New Zealand, wasn't it, with the Chiefs?
Yeah, I did. I did 6 months in New Zealand, and then actually finished off then just back with Connacht at the time as well. So learned a good bit from those two scenarios as well. And
they were professional rugby teams.
Yeah. I think professional went. I think in rugby it went professional in 05. Okay. Oh no, sorry, not 95. I meant to say 95.
Yes.
So, but it was still new enough. But but it was professional in 08, 2008.
And the Chiefs, would they have had All Blacks? They would have international rugby players.
They would have, for sure, Kev. Yeah, they had 5 or 6 current players at the time now. Quoting me the names would be.
Yes, and what was their training like compared to? Was it a level above anything you had seen before?
Oh yeah. Because I hadn't, although I was learning, I still didn't know Jack. And so every day I jotted down the programs off the board. I learned a ton.
Yes.
And of course it was in terms of the weight they could lift was just crazy.
Was there any numbers in particular that impressed you?
There was one prop, Aled de Malmonch. His max bench press was 220 apparently. Now I never seen him, but I seen him bench for reps 185.
Yes.
80 kilo dumbbells. Yeah. Ridiculous. So that was just phenomenal.
And were there many of the rugby players at that type of strength?
Like they were strong. They were strong, like strong and quick. I think most backs would be benching in around the 120 to 140 mark.
For reps?
For reps. I think reps are like 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of what's associated, still to this day, it's not as bad anymore, but definitely when we were starting off, when I was starting off and you were starting off maybe a few years before me, people associated heavy weights with getting slower.
Yeah.
But these were huge men.
Yeah.
Lifting enormous weight and they could move.
Oh, it's total nonsense, that concept, because as long as you keep your body weight lower, so strength to body weight ratio was key for getting faster. And like you look at, we've seen it ourselves, but like the more force you can produce off the ground, the faster you'll run. So the stronger you are, if you keep your body weight down, you're going to run faster.
Okay.
That's basic physics. So.
And was there anything that they did to achieve that? To make sure that, okay, they want to get huge and strong as possible, but they don't want to slow down. What were they doing to achieve that in a professional sense? Yeah,
well, they do their, I suppose, the weight training, the jump training, the sprint training, and measuring it, Kevin. Measuring, keeping their body fat down so they're not putting on unnecessary mass. So the strength to body weight ratio is good, but it's all, you're not carrying 5 bags of sugar or 5 kilos of body fat that isn't needed. So that measuring body fat, testing speed times with the speed gates, it's just measuring and knowing they're improving, and getting as strong as possible in the gym, the jump training, the speed and power work.
So they would have used testing to make sure that they weren't getting slower.
Oh yeah, they do their speed testing,
Okay.
The speed gate testing.
And that would give them a marker as in, okay, keep plowing away in the gym, it's helping things rather than holding things back.
Exactly, yeah.
And so if you put the average person who's maybe only 3 or 4 months in the gym under a 150 kg bench press, he's going to die.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So how would you reconcile maybe the person who's starting off, who hasn't been exposed to heavy weights, even if he's a talented underage, Chiefs or All Blacks player, how do you get him from there to that professional level of strength without breaking them in half along the way?
Just, Kev, you start them off on the floor. You start them, it's like a house. You put the foundation in first.
And how would they doing that in the Chiefs? What would they?
Well, see, in the Chiefs, they'd all come in at a good level, because they'd be playing with their schools and then their what was it, the Air New Zealand Cup at the time. I think it's the Mitra Cup now. So they'd be different, just like you're playing inter-county football. They'd be different tiers. So by the time they get to it's like there's the 4 provinces in Ireland. There's 5 in New Zealand. So by the time they get to that, they've already got a good base of strength training, I'm sure. I know. Sorry.
Yes.
So. They'd already be starting off and they'd be at a good level by the time they got to...
Yeah. And what were the main things they'd be doing to start building that base? Maybe if a coach is listening to this or a young athlete, what would be the best way of building that base so that they can move on to doing those more, those big impressive numbers on the bench press and the squat?
Like, I suppose... people are genetically different, so you might bring in someone who's never lifted a weight before, and if you tested them, they might be able to do 70 kilos, and then another lad might be able to do 40. But whatever their start off point is, I'm not just saying a bench, but a squat or a deadlift or whatever exercise it may be, you see where they're at. It's a coach's eye. That's their start off point, and then you build them up.
And so, to switch gears a little bit from the Chiefs and from rugby, when you finished college, what qualification did you have? And I remember at that time that I got the program off you. I remember I got the second phase of it maybe a month or 2 later. And again, I was nearly broken in half by the intensity of it and how difficult it was. And you said to me that you were laughing at me struggling, and you said to me that
bringing me back.
You enjoyed watching me struggle,
Yeah.
but you said, don't worry too much. I'm after giving the same program to Colin Boyle there last week or 2 weeks ago,
Right.
and he said to me, Jesus Christ, Griffith, where do you get this stuff?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So you essentially, Joe, you won't, I know you're not the type to blow your own trumpet, but essentially you helped Colin Boyle and then Varley break into the Mayo senior panel and bring their conditioning level up. I know both players have said that. What exactly were you doing with them? And I could tell at the time, in my naivety, and Joe, I didn't know much about strength training or GA. I was only maybe 18, 19. I could tell that what you were doing seems to be a level above what a lot of other GA coaches or strength and conditioning coaches were doing at the time. What was it that helped those two break onto one of the most successful Mayo pans ever?
Oh, well, I suppose you have to have a bit of raw talent.
Well, they had that.
So they had the talent.
Yes, but they both had been left off the panel. I'm pretty sure. Both had been dropped and were trying to break back on. So
Yeah. No, I'll not for a second try and say that I was the reason. But
Yes.
if it was a small part, I'm delighted
Yes.
that it helped them. But yeah, like I remember. Actually, Boyle wrote that, or I had that article in Irish Independent, which was fantastic. It was a bit of a left baller. I didn't expect that, but
Yes.
I remember coming back from a 21st. I was good friends with Boiler at the time. Coming back from a 21st baker up in Letterkenny. No, it wasn't Letterkenny. Where the fish, Killybegs.
Yes.
And he'd been dropped, I think. And I said, "Geez, Boiler, look at if you want to do some weight training. Look, I guarantee it's going to enhance your performance and it's going to make you better." And he was probably at a loose end at that stage. So about 2 weeks later, I get this phone call, and so that just started that off. And like all the basics, Kev, it's not rocket science, but getting them stronger, putting on a bit of size, jump training again to get them more explosive, all of that. Maybe a little bit of dietary advice, and even in terms of when to do it in the season, all of that stuff, like just.
And could you see the difference in him every time you met him over the next few months?
You could do, and the same with Varley. Varley'd be laughing at it. yeah. No, you could do, absolutely, because again they had good genetics, and with some proper training, you could absolutely. And it's at that age as well when you have the testosterone like a bull in a field. So it's the perfect time to do it.
Yes.
So you could see performance enhancers, absolutely, yeah.
Yes, but you're back to the explosive thing. I think both of those players, when they broke back onto the Mayo plan, they were textbook explosive athletes. They were just so powerful over small distances and in the tacking.
Yeah.
What exercises or did you use to create that specifically?
Oh God, yeah. Again, I'd have to look at their programs, but I bet it was again your meat and nuts, your compound lifts, your heavy back squats or deadlifts, or even Olympic lifts. It could have been a heavy barbell snatch, power clean and jerk, jump training, and then your accessory stuff to put on muscle. I'm sure RDLs, reverse hypers, isolated hamstring work, glute work, ab work, lower back work, all of that stuff, I'm sure.
And was there much, what type of sets and reps would you have used for those exercises predominantly? I know a mixture of sets and reps is always good, but like what would you have liked? What's your preferred sets and reps scheme?
Again, I'd have to have it, I'm sure, again, geez, we're going back a while.
Yes.
If I could see what I wrote down from them, but I'm sure it was something similar to, for strength training, it'd be low reps, and oftentimes even 1 rep for maximal strength. Then the jump training would have been probably 5 reps or less. And then the hypertrophy muscle building stuff would have been 8 to 12 usually, sometimes even higher.
And was that in the same session, or did you prefer to periodize it out, as in different reps at different phases?
So now, I'm not saying for a split second I'm friggin' a godfather in this, but in my head, you'd have a max effort day, or you do your max compound lift, and then straight afterwards you do your your jump training, and then after that again you do your hypertrophy, higher rep stuff. So it would be, yeah, it would be the same. And then on a second maybe leg session, you do your dynamic effort work, maybe 50% of your max squat for speed, then your jumps, and then your higher reps hypertrophy stuff after.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And with those guys, I'm not sure what their flexibility or their technique was like starting off, but it is a struggle for a lot of Gaelic footballers when they go into the weight room first.
Yeah.
But you obviously did it in the correct way if they got the results in terms of the increased performance. Yeah. What was some of the main coaching cues, or how did you teach technique so that they were doing things correctly?
Oh yeah, like
you I know from personal experience, you have a knack for teaching good technique without saying that much. How do you do that?
I think it's just cues, Kev, and probably some of the same cues I was using then I use now. If you see someone rolling forward in the squat, keep your chest up, shoulders back. All simple stuff that the athlete mightn't have a clue what you're trying to get them to do, but you're trying to just keep that pattern in the way you want it, you know. So just cues, I guess, cues to make it simple for them.
Well, in the day of like the YouTube and Instagram and these things, we're losing the art, and apps, we're losing the art of like a specific cue relatable to the specific athlete. So like, it's very easy to tell someone this is how you squat.
Yeah.
But then when you're coaching just 10 different people, you're giving slightly different cues to different people.
Definitely.
So is the art getting lost a little bit and just watch this video and do it like that?
Yeah, probably. Social media is gone crazy. I think so. I think and that's the beauty about being a coach. You have to see what's the problem and fix it individually. As Louis Simmons used to say, you need a different size bait to catch a different size fish.
Yes.
So what I might be telling Susan in the gym might be slightly different to Mary, just to get whatever you're trying to achieve right.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately for the personal training client or for the GA player, a lot of them have never experienced a good strength and conditioning coach actually watching them train and cueing them.
Yes.
This is how much reps you're left till you're going to failure. You might think you're near failure, but you have this many reps left.
Yeah.
This is how you change your technique specifically. So I've always refused. I've got asked to do a lot of GA team strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
And will you give us a program? I've always said, look, I'm not giving anyone a program unless I can actually watch them train.
Agreed, 100%.
I know you're very much that way as well. Because a program with as good as it is, where if it's just a piece of paper, it's not worth much to you.
Not absolutely. Yeah.
So what do you love about the in-person training where you're actually cueing the athlete in front of you?
I just love it, Kevin. I just absolutely love being in the gym and seeing improvements and just the fun you'd have, the crack you'd have with whether it be a personal training client or the athlete, and seeing them improve and helping them out, you know.
What would you enjoy about the actual coaching of the athlete in the gym, which is becoming almost a lost art? People want the program, but they think that I just get this program and I do it myself. What are they missing out on by not having someone cueing them actually in the gym?
Geez, yeah. Well, you're missing out on human interaction, firstly,
which is crucial.
Which is crucial, yeah. That, and I don't think you're going to get as much out of it as if you've got somebody just driving you on in the gym and helping you out in person. Yeah. You can't. You just.
I was training Gales last year, and I was doing some upper body sessions with them.
Yeah.
I did upper and lower.
Yes.
The way you used to split it.
Yeah.
But I did an upper body session, a few upper body sessions, and one of them says to me, "I've never done a leg session as hard as this." Just by pushing them so hard to failure till you can't actually do any more reps. If you haven't got a coach in front of you, it's very hard to go there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Or maybe 1 out of 100. If you have that attitude, you might be able to go there. But most won't unless you put a rocket up their tail end. You know?
And putting that rocket, it's crucial to be there in person to do that.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, if you leave it to to maybe players' own devices. They're not going to train with the same gusto as if you're there.
Even with the end of Varleys and the Cullen Boyle, they still need a cue and someone to show them what their true max effort is.
Definitely, yeah. Like, even if they think...
Because that's one of the great thing about team sports is you get that because you're in the group with everyone else and the coach is driving you on. But it's underestimated in the weight room.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, and they feed off each other's energy. You know, in that group scenario.
As regards, say, GAA versus rugby, they're different sports.
Yeah.
And they have different size athletes.
Yeah.
You know, and what a rugby player or a GAA player shouldn't be trying to do what a rugby prop is doing. But there are a lot of lessons in rugby that I think, especially in the weight room, that GAA players aren't taken into account, and they could be learning a lot more from a lot faster. So how do we reconcile that? You need to be very strong, you need to be explosive, you need to be able to break tackles, but you also need a huge cardio to play GAA.
You do.
So where do you balance the two, or what's your opinion on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You need a huge engine. I suppose it's a needs analysis, isn't it? You look at measure what players can do, like, and if a player has already got a 110 kilo bench and 160 kilo squat, or I'm just giving an example, but his cardio was crap, you test him in a bleep test and it's
bottom of the barrel.
Of the barrel, then he needs a bigger chunk of the pie on that area to get his engine up. So needs analysis, I guess. You measure them and you see where their weaker points are. But 100%, like, the games there's similarities, but if you look at the average weight of a GAA player at inter-county level, I think it's something like 85 kilos, whereas a back in rugby is 91 and a forward is maybe 110. So the size difference is you know, there's a big difference, like.
And how, say, if you're training in the gym, you've got stronger, where do you start to get fitter? What type of runs are you doing? Do you think?
In my opinion,
because there's like so many different types of runs you can do. Like, there's your yo-yo type runs. There's your 200 meters, which I'm a big fan of. I call them 200s, but it's basically the full length of the pitch and then across, which takes about 30 seconds, and then so you're doing like an L, from the bottom corner up to the top and across. Finish usually at the goal post. I've always used them, so I learned from Charles Poliquin that 30 seconds on and 90 seconds, so 3 to 1, 4 to 1 work to rest, was the most effective. So that's what I found, was if they can do that in roughly about 30 seconds, you give them 90 seconds to 2 minutes break and away you go again. What would be your favourite type of run to get a team fit cardio wise on the pitch?
Like, I guess interval sprints like that. Interval sprints, Kev.
So if he's trying to get, say, up 2 or 3 points on the bleep test, what would you give him?
So I personally, I'd vary it every week or two, certainly, so the body doesn't accommodate to this. Like in the gym, you need to change up the program. So I'd vary up the endurance sprint type sessions. So like you're saying there, Kev, I might do 200 meters and taking 90 seconds off, or the following week I might change that to 100 meters. Following week I might do 50 meters. Just changing it up. But
that's interesting. So you're changing it a lot.
In my personal opinion, so the body doesn't accommodate to, you know, it doesn't hit a speed barrier, you know, running the same distance as body getting used to it. So I change it. It might be 75 meters interval sprints one week, 50 meters the next, 150 the following, 200s the following, you know.
And how hard are you running them? Are you running them till they're on their knees puking, or how hard are you running them?
It needs analysis again, but you'd be going hard, Kev, if the sprint session could be 20 minutes and you're going eyeballs out effort. So you're always a big fan of, you don't like the tempo runs, you prefer to like max effort. Because you don't want to teach your body to move slowly. I've never seen a Gaelic footballer run slow to a ball. They're always going eyeballs out, and then you take a break and you do it again. That's the game. So, in my opinion.
Okay, that's interesting. So, in the sports science era, sometimes people get a bit lost in like, this is a 70% run and this is an 80% run, and so what the fuck is an 80% run really?
Yes, it's very hard to measure. Like,
it is, and usually if you're saying we'll do this one at 70%, everyone is usually taking it a little bit easier than what they should be. You know, it's human nature.
Human nature,
There are some lazy players, but even the non-lazy ones, it's human nature to go a bit easier than you should be. So how hard are you driving them in terms of like, okay, they have to get fit, championships in 12 to 16 weeks. How often a week are you running them, say, till they're on their knees?
Oh yeah, like recovery is huge as well.
It is.
You know, you can't
red line every day.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. But I suppose different phases of the year, Kev, you know, off season you might be doing it once a week, you know, maybe this time of the year, once or twice a week. And then towards, you know, the middle of the summer, when you've got championship games or whatever, or that's the competitive season, you might be doing maybe 2 gym sessions. You might be on the field 3 times, and then you might have 2 clear recovery days. So you might be going twice hard with that interval type stuff for 20 minutes. The rest of your session, I'm sure, is tactics and drills, etc.
Yes.
And then you've got your game, and you're making sure you're recovering in the meantime, because you can't blindly just, you know,
exactly.
Can't recover.
No, I do want to go into recovery, but I will stay on the running for a second.
Yeah. So
if you're running hard twice a week for 20-minute intervals, that's enough, you think? No, obviously we'll go into recovery in a minute, but generally,
I think that would suffice, because then in the rest of your session you're getting kilometers up anyway. You're getting, with your drills, you're getting distance up in the legs, and you're getting work that way as well, you know.
It's hard to know, because some people, it's very, very difficult for a lot of coaches. It's very difficult, especially if they haven't got a strength conditioning background. You know, it's hard to know when am I going too easy and giving them a bit of a break so that they feel a bit more energetic, and when am I going too hard that they're going to be tired or overtrained. It's hard to find that balance, isn't it?
It is, Kev. It surely is, and I'm sure there's ways, sports scientific ways of measuring it that I don't have the equipment for, but you know, absolutely.
But it's still a lot of art, I find, not just science.
No, conversations with lads. Honest conversations, or, you know, if someone is feeling, if their sleep is crap, they're getting sinus infections, okay, they could be overtrained, you scale it back a bit. Just like human interaction, conversations, and you'll gauge a lot. But you said it's an art, isn't it? And
it sure is, yeah. You know, now, obviously, you're going to be able to train far harder for longer without getting injured if you're recovering properly. Yeah. And I've always, like, there's a lot of things, like, you can do like foam rolling and ice baths and massage guns and all these things, but for me, like, your 80-20 of recovery was always your food and your sleep. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So what nutrition advice? I remember you were giving me some nutrition advice back in the day. Some protein 3 times a day in your meals, and vitamin C tablets for recovery. What other things are you a fan of for recovery, and what have you learned since then?
Oh yeah. Geez, I hope if anyone's watching, it's very much the S&C, which I love, but the PT, the personal training client, you mightn't be talking about this sort of stuff as much with. No. But for the recovery for athletes, yeah, Kev, and when I was playing, I didn't hone in on it enough myself or drive it as much, but I've learned a lot in the last couple of years about recovery methods, and it's so essential, like, so, and sleep, is it that you're talking specifically about? Oh yeah, I mean, like, you have to, they're so essential. Get your 8 to 9 hours sleep, quality sleep, cold, dark room, you know, no electronics an hour or 2 before you go to sleep. All of that helps, you know, it's essential. Even naps, if you can fit in a 15, 20, 30 minute nap, that's really going to help the restorative process in the body recover from tough training sessions. So yeah, like the sleep and nutrition is your meat and nuts. They're essential, Kevin. Nutrition advice, like, if I could summarize it, like, I tell clients, I try and have the same philosophy myself. I think, is it Nick Mitchell who says, food from the land. Keep it simple. You know, try and have food from the land. In terms of protein, 2 grams per kilogram is a good sort of measure for an athlete. Spread throughout the day, 30 to 50 gram doses in multiple servings. Food from the land, lots of vegetables, fruits, 2 to 3 litres of water a day. You know, it's all the basics.
Yeah, and getting clients, personal training clients or athletes to do that is often difficult.
Oh yeah.
So what's you've managed to be successful in doing that with plenty of clients for weight loss, PT clients, and also your athletes. So how did you sell it to them?
It's tough to sell.
It is,
because people, you know, some people are great, but some, you know, again,
struggling with the nutrition.
Struggle, big time. Food diaries. Okay, I'm sure you'd be an encyclopedia in nutrition, Kev. But food diaries is the key thing, and just keeping them accountable. It's basic stuff, but checking their food diary every time they come into the gym. You know, whether it be your football player, your athlete, or your personal training client.
Yes. So we'll take 2 case studies. So the first is your 16, 17, 18-year-old. He might be 65 kg and lean, but he wants to get to 80 kg by the time he's 21.
Yeah.
What are a few staple meals that you've used to put on muscle, or a few things that you've encouraged GA players to eat nutrition wise to put on muscle?
Yeah, again, keep it simple. Food from the land, you know, in terms of lots of vegetables, fruits, but in terms of putting on weight, Kev, you need a calorie surplus. So, you know, you'd be looking at their food diaries, making sure whatever calorie goal you give them that they're hitting it. But like lots of protein, it's simple stuff, lots of protein, carbohydrates and proteins before and after gym sessions. Horses for courses, it depends on the person, but as you know.
Is there anything you've found to be a trend that this helps a lot of people who are trying to lose weight if they can avoid X, Y, or Z?
Oh, like, it's awful simple in theory, isn't it? But it's just difficult to get people to execute it. But
and a lot of the advice you're giving me today, or talking about now, is what you gave me back in the day.
Yeah.
So it's very simple nutrition wise. It's the art really of getting people to follow it.
Exactly, getting people just to do it, to execute it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll switch gears a little bit and we'll go into Peak Physique. So how did you come about opening the gym in Ballyhaunis, and how did it start? Where did the idea come from?
Yeah, well, I was teaching for a couple of years, Kev, and it just wasn't for me. And you have to really respect teachers, because people think it might be an easy job, but it's not, and they earn every day of their holidays. It just wasn't for me. And
so it was draining you.
It was draining me. It was, and like I always absolutely loved the gym, and I was in with you, Kev, at the time, just working out in your gym even, and I had to make a change because I was unhappy in myself teaching. And then I wanted to open a gym, and I remember I was looking down in Westport, but for one or two reasons it didn't work out. And then I just realised, look, at Ballyhaunis there's a bit of potential there. There wasn't a whole lot of gyms. There was good populace of people, so I says, and Claremorris was fairly saturated at the time. Still is, yeah. So I go, look, this makes sense it's commutable distance. Let's try there. And people are lovely. They're really, really, you'd nearly say you've made some nice friends out of it.
Yes.
But lovely people, and it's going well. So I just opened there 6 years ago, and I love it. Like,
fast 6 years.
Fast 6 years, yeah, but enjoyable.
But it is very difficult for people to make the step to move from a job they don't like and try and open their own business. Yeah. How did you find that decision? Did you have to mull over it for long? Or?
Oh, a lot of people would tell you not to do it, but
they would, yeah. They would.
Know, but and especially teaching was a nice, steady, pensionable job. But if you're kind of half miserable in yourself, it was easy. It was actually easy because I had to do something I loved.
Yes.
You know, you had to, something that spoke to your soul, and it does. And, you know, so it was easy enough for me. And I go, look, what's the worst that can happen? If it falls in its ass and I'm not successful, and you give it 2 or 3 years, then so be it. At least you tried it. That was my philosophy.
Yeah. And
you know.
what skills did you have to pick up along the way that I know obviously quite closely because I have a gym myself, but like what have I've got plenty of lessons by getting kicked in the arse along the way about running a business. What have you learned along the way maybe that you didn't anticipate before you started?
Oh God, you learn. I suppose it's you learn so much, Kev. You learn so much. Well, I hadn't dealt with the general public before that. Like, it was all sports people.
Yes.
Even teaching in schools, if I was doing a bit of strength and conditioning on the side, it was all athletes. So I suppose that, you know, you're just dealing with a completely type of, you know, different demographic of kind of person. So you had to, that was a learning curve. When I got into the gym at the start, the training might be different now because I probably push people too hard. And now I've learned you can't run people out the door, so you start them easy and you know,
build up their confidence.
You build up their confidence. So that was probably one of the key things I've learned.
Is meeting people where they are.
Exactly, yeah. That was a learning curve.
Same for me, yeah. I remember the first day I opened the doors, 100%. The first day I was training a girl and she put a 20 kg squat bar on her back. The first day, and she just couldn't barely even bend her knees with just an empty bar on her back, which is a lot of the demographic we deal with.
Absolutely,
in personal training, and you learn then by going along how to make things easier and meet them where they are.
Exactly, Kev. Yeah, I think
I found it brilliant for me personally that I can relate to you can relate to the people who've squatted and benched 150 kg plus, right down to the people who can barely bend their knees in a bodyweight squat. And it's super to see people progress, even if they're at a very, very basic level.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You love it, like, yeah, I love it, and as do you. But it's great, like, it gives you're enhancing somebody's life, their life quality, when you see someone coming in and they can't, you'd have clients that would struggle to maybe sit on a 15-inch bench.
Yes.
Properly, and then you see them improve, and they're talking about themselves getting stronger and leaner, and their quality of life is enhanced. So it's just brilliant to see. Like, it
does, and it transcends many other aspects of their life as well.
Absolutely, confidence. It does. I can't think of anything that doesn't help.
Yes,
being in the gym, I can't.
I know we're in love with it and obsessed with it, but it is like no matter how successful they are in their personal relationships or their I've had plenty of clients who are extremely financially successful, but the difference they feel when they become physically fitter and healthier is just unbelievable, no matter how good things are going outside of the gym or how bad. Absolutely,
yeah, no, exactly. They could be a millionaire, but it's going to help everyone. Endorphins, it's good for the brain, it's good for the body. They feel better.
And there's a job satisfaction that personal trainers get that's unique.
Yeah, it's the best job in the world as regards that. I remember Ian McWalter telling me he thinks his job is the best in the world, and I agree in a way. Like, you're really helping people out, and you get massive satisfaction from that.
Yes. And you just mentioned your demographic there. So, who would be your demographic? I'm sure it's a mix, but mainly, and how do you start off with someone who's coming in the door to you in Peak Physique for the first time?
Yeah, so the main demographic, I remember just when you rang me about the podcast, I said it was mostly 30 to kind of in 60s, and that's true, but in fairness, I reflected on that, and I do have some, late teens, 20s, not a whole lot, but I have a few of them, but it's mostly kind of people from 30 right up to nearly 70. And in fact, I had one chap from Castlereagh, Seamus, who was 82, which was great.
Yeah.
So that's your kind of client base. Pretty much 30s up, and then a few kind of 20s and late teens.
How are you starting with them when they come in the door first? What do you do? What's your focus with them?
Yeah, so I kind of you might have a staple way of just staple easy program to start them with, Kev. So you might do a box squat unweighted, and seeing where they're at, and if they can hardly sit on the bench, then that's your start off point, And if they're super strong, then you can put a bar on their back. You know, maybe dumbbell bench press, dumbbell rows, just stuff like that. So I give them a basic program with really light weight, depending on if it's male or female, and you just see where they're at, and then you can just the coach's eye again.
Yes.
You know, and you can enhance it then based on where they start.
The more experience you have, the better the coach and eye becomes for.
Yeah, definitely. But I certainly have a philosophy. You start them, no matter who it is, I've learned.
Right.
No matter who it is. Just for example, the lady in the gym, no matter who it is, I'd rather start them easier and see where they're at and make them feel comfortable and think, this isn't too bad, I can do this, rather than going eyeballs out and run them out the door. So I might start them with 3 kilo dumbbells, Kev.
Yeah.
And the following week, if they can go to 5s, I might go 5s and so on, you know. But I start them easy.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah, that's what I've learned. I remember Polcon used to say, if men and women are different. So I've noticed that when women come into the gym, they'll usually say something like, I'm probably the worst client you've ever had. Right?
Oh,
they run themselves down straight away. You know? I'm the least fit, I have the most body fat, I'm just terrible. You've never had anyone as bad as me.
Yeah.
And then with men, they'll be the opposite. They'll be like, you know, he could be 20 kg overweight. He could say, you know, if I lose 4 or 5 pounds, I'll have a six pack. It's amazing the difference from men to women.
Absolutely. And I think that just comes back to hormonal profile. Nick Mitchell talks about that as just, even from day dud, men are more risk takers because they've 10 times the level of testosterone.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it certainly, that's just the difference between.
And how do you make someone who's very self-conscious feel comfortable? Because you've obviously managed that when your demographic has you know, been a lot of people who've never lifted weights before.
Jesus, when they walk in the door, you shake their hand, you say you're very welcome. You know, there's no ego. You leave your ego outside the door. You welcome them. You just have a chat like it. The client wants to see somebody who's personable, so you focus more on that at the start. Make them feel really welcome. Start them off easy. You know, just general conversations go a long way, and you know, just being warm, and actually the teaching help with that. Just dealing with different, all sorts of different people from different backgrounds, and just that's how we do it. You know.
Yeah.
Simple stuff that's hard to put your finger on, but you just
then people skills that are hard to teach.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm absolutely fantastic at it, but
well, you've proven yourself to be able to deal with a lot of different clientele of many different ages and backgrounds, so it's obviously one of your strengths.
Yeah, well, you try it anyway for sure. You know.
What are you learning right now for your own training? Because I know all the way through Chaz Polcon, again, to bring him up again, I actually learnt about him from the first time from you. When I asked you, I had heard about someone doing 10 by 10 squats. I was like, surely this is wrong, but you knew within a split second. German volume training, that's Charles Polcon. So I went home and I looked up, remember the old Polcon website, and I read pretty much every article on that over the next few years and went to his courses and that. What is your favorite exercises or favorite ways to train right now? Because Polcon used to say trainers who don't train, strength coaches who don't train, virgin sex therapists, he used to call them. You've always been completely committed to your own training, no matter what happens. If the sky was falling down, you would be in the gym and you get your session done.
Absolutely.
Which is very admirable, because a lot of people take the foot off the gas. They get busy, work is busy, or for one reason or another they stop training, even though they're training other people. Polcon was completely against this.
I agree.
I'm against it, you're against it. What are you training now at the minute, and how's your training going?
Look, Kev, I probably drive Emma cracked because I'm so obsessed about it. You know, I love it. Like I train Monday to Friday.
5 days.
5 days, Kev. Try and take the weekends off, then just have a bit of balance. You know, I try to.
Even those days you find it hard to stay out of the gym.
Do you know what? It's funny. Weekends I don't. I can take because I'm content to myself that I've bust my ass, and you know I can just chill out and all of that. So, but to answer your question, training wise, look, Love the Louis Simmons, the West Side Barbell.
Yeah, well, I was actually talking to Kevin Lynch about this not so long ago. So
Yeah.
the West Side Barbell, I've read a lot about it.
Yeah.
I've heard a few podcasts of Louis Simmons, but I've never actually trained that way. How do you train that way? What have you learned from West Side?
Oh, no, he's just. I don't know. I just want to thank that man. I never met him. I wish I did, but he was obsessed about that man. He was just such an absolute genius.
Yeah.
I've all his books, Kev. I've 11 of his books.
Yeah.
His special strength sort of studied that. All the recommendation books. I'm going on here, but to answer your question, yeah, how you train. So the meat and nuts of it would look something like you'd have a max effort day.
Okay, and a max effort day is what exactly?
It could be, we'll just say a different exercise, a core compound movement you start off with. So it could be a max box squat for 1 rep.
Mm.
Max,
and you're building up to that 1 rep at a time, or are you doing sets of 10, 8, down, pyramid down the way, or?
you warm up. So you warm up, and then once you're kind of warmed up, you do your 1 rep maxes. So we'll just say if you're trying to hit a box squat of, we'll just say 200 kilo. I don't know, or it could be 100 kilo. Yeah. We'll just say 200. You do your warm up, then you might go 60 for 1, 80 for 1, 100 for 1, 120, 140, 160, 180, 190, 200. You know, so just working it up. So you hit your max core compound movement. We'll just say if it's a leg day, you might do your jumps and then your accessory work. So okay. Whatever you may have programmed, and
then Monday to Friday, how do you structure that?
You could do, we'll just say you could do maximum effort legs on a Monday, maximum effort upper body on a Tuesday. Theoretically, you could take Wednesday off. This is just a template you could use. And then you could do dynamic effort legs on a Thursday and dynamic effort upper body on a Friday.
What's the difference between the dynamic effort sessions and the max effort sessions in layman's terms?
Yeah, just the start of it, the first 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
Your max effort day is you're maxing out for 1 rep, and then the rest of your session is your higher rep stuff. And then your dynamic effort day, your first 10 or 15 minutes are speed.
Moving the weight as quick as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Moving the weight as quickly as possible.
So is that like tempo, like as in slow on the way down, powerful on the way up, or is it up, down, fast? Up,
down, fast. Fast eccentric, fast concentric. Fast down, fast up.
Okay.
And it could be 10 sets of 2, for example, on legs.
Isn't it incredible how rare it is, those speed weight training sessions? How rare it is that you see someone actually moving the weight as quick as possible.
Yeah, and I think people are missing a trick, personally.
Of course, that's that explosive movement of the barbell or the weight. It's so rare, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's essential. Like, it should be done, you know. But because force equals mass times acceleration.
Okay.
The acceleration part of that physics equation, you have to train.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, you have to. It should be done. Should be done.
And okay, so you love training that way.
Yeah.
And how would you tweak your program, say, if it's getting a bit stale?
You have to.
So you've tweaked programs for me in the past. How do you tweak them for yourself, and how do you know when it's getting a bit stale and I'm going to tweak X, Y, or Z?
I change it very frequently.
Okay.
I think did Poliquin say like every 6 sessions or every 2 weeks you change an exercise? So don't quote me on that, but I have similar philosophy, Kev. I would probably change work every week or every second week at the you know, some exercises you wouldn't, like, but if you pick a back exercise, I might do barbell rows 1 week, you might do 1 arm rows the next.
Yes.
You might do chin-ups the next. So you're constantly varying the exercise, giving your body a new stimulus, preventing overuse injuries, and just keeping the mind fresh, preventing boredom.
I've worked under a good few different coaches, and it's nice to take in a lot of different approaches.
Yeah.
So one would have been all-out bodybuilding, one would have been Andre's very much powerlifting approach, then a gymnastics coach. I've found, for gaining mass, the power building works best for me. So a mixture of powerlifting and bodybuilding. Did you ever hear of Josh Bryant? Jailhouse Strong.
JLS, yes, I've seen a bit online. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
But he's a bit obsessed with Westside, you know.
Okay.
And he was also one of Poliquin's proteges.
Right.
So he studied under Poliquin, and Poliquin was a big fan of him. But what I used to do in the squat was I'd build up, say I might do 10 reps of 60, 8 reps of 80, maybe 4 or 5 reps of 100, and then when I got to 120 it'd be down to 1 rep. 120, 1 rep, 130, 1 rep, and then let's say 140 or 150 would be where I'm trying to get the top set.
Yeah.
And is that very similar to your approach?
Yeah, it would be. You're doing your warm up.
So might be going for 5 reps then in the top set of 140 or 150.
I get you. Yeah, no, it'd be similar, but the difference would be you're just doing it for, if you were following the Westside approach, you just do, and you said the JLS, he maybe a slightly modified version of it from the sounds of it. But yeah, the similar approach, Kev, you warm up the body and then you'd be maxing out, but the last rep is just your 1 rep max.
And then when I did my top set,
yeah,
I'd take 3 minutes break and I'd reduce the weight by maybe to 60% of that top weight, and I'd do a max effort. So I might do 20 reps then of 100, I think was the most I ever got, or 18 of 110.
Brutal, yeah.
So
brutally hard.
So you're getting the best of both worlds then.
Yeah.
You're getting your power building top set, and then you're getting like a higher rep hypertrophy
afterwards.
And I could be 45 minutes building up to that.
Yeah.
And getting that done. And then I could finish the rest of the session then in 15-20 minutes. Leg presses, Bulgarian split squats. It's nearly like cardio with weights after that.
Yes.
So it's quite a similar approach.
Yeah.
And I've always found that to be far more enjoyable than just all-out bodybuilding, where every set is like higher volume, where you're not building up to that top set or that powerlifting style set.
Yes. Yeah, and like you found from trial and error and practical experience that suits best for you. So there's a bit of that in it, like.
Because I've got stuck in the 3 sets or 4 sets of 8 to 10,
the
same weight each set.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get stuck in that, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And again, as Louis Simmons used to make the point of, it's very, like, you have to, it's a bit of trial and error. You know what works for you, and you vary it. You shouldn't get stuck in a certain rep range.
A lot of the clients I get that aren't new to weight training, they've done maybe a year or 2 on their own, and they're in pretty decent shape. They're stuck on that 3 sets of 8 to 10 of the same weight. Yeah,
and then they think possibly, oh Jesus,
I've reached my potential.
Yeah, you think they've reached their potential, exactly, and they get stuck in their ways, and they might think to Jesus, does this person know what they're on about when they're trying to get me to change it?
Yes.
You know, but you shouldn't change. You should change. You absolutely don't get stuck in one way of 1 rep range.
Okay, so we'll go through. We'll start wrapping up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll go through some muscle groups, I think.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get your back stronger, what do you have to have in?
Oh yeah, back stronger. You have to have some sort of a row.
Okay.
And
what's your favourite type of row?
To answer that, probably variability. So different. Honestly, I vary it a lot. But okay, if I go into my head, barbell row.
Okay, barbell row, the bent over barbell.
Bent over barbell row, yeah.
Okay.
If I could only pick one, but I vary it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the same with a push. So, what type of press is your favourite type of press? Is it dips, chin, or dumbbells, barbells? What do you use the most?
Mix it up, Kev. I mix it up. You might do heavy barbell bench, incline bench, decline bench, floor press, dumbbells. Honestly, I like them all, but you'd mix it up.
And then with the legs training,
like, it's just a core compound movement. Like, you might do a box squat, conventional deadlift. You might do box squat with bands, heavy good mornings. You know, depending on.
How heavy would your good mornings go?
My good morning, Kev, I think I did, recently enough, I did like 130 for 3. Yeah. So that's
because I introduce so many of my clients to the good morning for the first time.
Yeah.
It's not used often at all, is it? It's so underrated.
It's just, I suppose, the position you're in.
I think the heaviest I ever went was 80 for 8.
But that's good though. That's
even you could have some people who are very strong in the squat, they've never done a good morning before, and they feel like they're going to break in half when
Yeah.
they start doing it. But the way it increases hip flexibility and mobility is unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's, you know, it's just another good tool to use.
It's very underrated exercise, the good morning.
Yeah,
I remember you showing it to me all those years ago, and the stretch on the hamstrings is unbelievable.
Savage, yeah, it's just good for mobility, exactly.
And so that would be a few of the main body parts. And then for anyone starting to strength train today, what would you recommend? What would the main bit of advice?
Oh, gee, I suppose, well, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Start off easy, build yourself up, and probably start off going to someone like yourself. You know, speed up the process in terms of, there's a lot of pitfalls to fall into. So if you go to someone like yourself, you're going to just get a good structure, a good program. You have years of experience, or someone like you. So go to somebody knowledgeable, just to what's the right word, but to give you almost a shortcut to a proper program with a proper structure.
Speed up the process.
Yeah, speed up the process.
I remember I hired you as a coach all those years ago, and it's sped up so many of those pitfalls that you're talking about.
That's right, yeah. Like, it just does. Like, I would say not go in willy-nilly. Just go. You have accessibility to great people, like, you know, great coaches, so you just use them. Speed up the process.
And I had that way of being able to ask constantly, badger you with questions. I remember being in Mary I and ringing you on the phone. You were in London at the time, and asking you these questions about programs and exercises.
Thirst for knowledge.
So you would enjoy if a client wants to know more, and you'd enjoy trying to educate them as much as possible on the.
Oh yeah, love it, Kev. Love it. If client shows an interest and they've questions, you just love it. Like, you love helping them out. You love helping people.
It's more than just giving them a sheet of paper. It's actually coaching them through the process and answering the questions as they're going along.
Oh, 99% that. It's 99% coaching and the experience of the human interaction.
Okay, well that's a good place to wrap up.
Great, Kev.
I've really enjoyed it. And if anyone wants to make contact with you, what's your social media or? Yeah,
so Facebook and Instagram, Peak Physique Ballyhaunis, and my number is on that. You can message me on it, and we'll get straight back to you. So yeah.
And I'll leave some information on the gym and that in the end of the podcast. So thanks very much.
Cheers, Kev. Thanks a million. It's good.